very fortunate during the time that I worked for this chemical company because not only did I become an expert in hazardous material, I became an expert freight negotiator in every mode in every country, major continent. So I began to negotiate freight to get on rail, road, over the air, over the ocean with other cultures.
Right.
And that's difficult because you have to be sensitive to these cultures. For instance, they would come visit and I had to study what they would eat in regard to temperature control. It's insulting to serve someone from Far East Asia a cold temperature drink or a sandwich.
Wow.
A cold sandwich.
Okay.
It's considered a sign of insensitivity to their culture because they don't consume high temperature, cold temperature liquids or meats.
Wow.
And I didn't know that, but I had to now train myself on
Right.
what would be respectful. So they would come visit, and I would wait till the Yankees or the Mets was in Atlanta, and then take them to a game.
No
so
doubt.
We would be the ones
Right,
with
right.
all the Mets gear, all the Yankees
Kill
gear.
two birds with one stone, right?
If we gonna come to Atlanta,
Right.
we gonna rap New York.
No doubt, no doubt, no question.
Which was funny, right? For them, it was very funny for them. Like, oh, we're gonna be New York and Atlanta. Okay, but they just rolled with it, right?
Right.
And I would get them all the gear from home so they can represent.
They're totally confused. By the time people ask them, they're like, we don't know. We just put on what, right, we just showed up.
We just with her.
Exactly.
Right?
We were Shaq. We were the Beast.
Shaq, right? And they would do that all the time, Shaq the Beast, especially when we would get high volume contracts to move huge amount of freights during, we did a lot of pool chemicals. So we would move freight during the time that most people thought was slow season.
Okay.
Right? So when people say slow season, to me, I don't get that. There's never a slow season globally. You just need to know how to position yourself for what's in season for another country and what port that comes into our country. Truckers should never have a dry run.
Right.
Never. They
Right.
should never have idle time. If you're strategically preparing yourself for what is seasonal and what the statistics and the data shows for where you should position your drivers and not only rely on load boards, you'll be successful. It's really that simple. Otherwise, you're kind of running aimless, if that makes sense.
Right. So a few things I want to unpack and kind of touch on because that's a dope story, but I got to go back. Let's rewind a little bit.
Back.
So first, it's amazing to me that you said this was 2004.
Correct.
That the woman at the front desk or whatever would actually have the gall to part her lips and say these things to you. Like, I'm just trying to figure out what time are we living in. I'm trying to go back in my mind 16 years and like, were people acting like that 16 years ago?
Here, that was my experience. And that was in Marietta, so that wasn't far from the city of Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, to really just say that to you blatantly, I mean, that must, I could imagine that must have really been a shock to you.
It was shock. It was disappointing. And then I think that was the first time in my life that I realized Shaquana was not acceptable.
Right.
I was like, no one's ever had an issue with my name ever.
And then not even the name, but to go into your hair and the coils, and she's trying to, figure out her own way to explain. It's just crazy. I mean, it sounds like we're back in civil rights era.
And you know what's even more crazy? When I started at the chemical company, my first day when I got to my new cubicle, Shay was on my placard and my business card. I'm like, how do they know Shay?
Right.
I thought I got a new start.
Right.
So I remember going to HR and saying, hey, I think there's a mistake. I'm Shaquana.
Right.
And she said, no, you're Shay.
Right.
And she said, when I called to get your references, the previous employer referred to you as Shay. And I said, oh, which is a nickname that they said, but that's not how I prefer to be called. And she said, well, you do know that you don't look like a Shaquana. and she gave me the...
She gave you that, huh?
And I was like, okay, this is still happening to me, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I said, well, I'll be in onboarding and orientation. Can we just change it before I get back? I don't want to be represented that way.
Right.
And she said, we've already printed everything, and your email address says Shay as well. So pretty much she was telling me, you're going to be this, period. I only worked there for about 6 months or so, and my dad came to visit. And he said, I want to see where you work. I said, oh, no, we don't want to go there.
Right.
I'm on vacation.
Right.
I'm buying a new house. Come see the new house.
Right.
He was like, no. For all I know, you at a local crack house somewhere. I want to see what them degrees has done. Show me where, I want to see where you work.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So I took him down there. We get there, I get him a visitor's badge. Everybody's walking by. Morning, Shay. Hey, Shay. Morning, Shay.
Pop's looking at you like, who?
The whole time he's kind of like looking around.
That ain't my daughter.
He said, I want to see where you sit. I said, just a cubicle.
Yeah.
I want to see where you sit.
Yeah.
So I take him to my area. I was the only person of color in the area at all at the time. Take him over there. And my supervisor at the time comes out and he goes, "Hey, Shay, I thought you was on vacation." And I said, "No, but I'm leaving."
Right.
And my dad said, "No, I don't think we've met." And I said, that's my supervisor, my manager. So he said, "Oh, he said, "Oh, we love Shay. She has such a bubbly personality. She brings so much high energy to the office." And went to shake my dad's hand. And he said, "We don't know Shay. I have never heard Shay in my life."
That's what I'm talking about.
Can I speak to you privately?
That's what I'm talking about.
So I thought I was living a Friday episode.
Shit.
I'm like, "Yo, I'm about to get fired on my day off." Like, yo, this is a whole Friday episode.
Right.
I'm like, I'm about to get fired on my day off.
Right.
I finally got benefits.
Yeah.
And I'm doing well here. I'm buying a whole house. Went in the office, and I'm pretty outgoing, as you can see.
Yeah,
so for the first time, I really felt like just sit down and be quiet somewhere.
Yeah.
And I sat there like, I was really humble. Like, let my dad do what he do. And my dad said, "Do you understand what Shaquana means, what that represents? That's an African pride, but we will not strip my daughter of her culture. Not at this organization, not in the South. We just not doing that. So why are you calling her that? I need to understand. We don't even know anyone named Shay." So he said, "I don't know. She came to me like that." He was like, "You don't like that?" And I said, "No." And I asked him not to call me that. He said, "Who's them?" And I'm like, "Oh, God." Because the person was a vice president of our human resource department.
Right.
And I was like, "I'd rather not say who." And he said the name straight up. "Was it so-and-so?" I was like, "Yeah." So my dad was like, can I speak to this person?"
Right.
He was like, "There's no need." He was like, "Shaq, you know what?" Now, at this time, he was still calling me Shay. My dad said, "No, we're not going to be calling her that.
Yeah.
Shaquana."
Yeah.
He was like, "Okay, Shaquana, finish off the rest of your vacation. I'll have everything changed by the time you come back." And he did. So when I came back, I knew I had this big presentation to show the freight lanes I had just secured globally to move this very, 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 very nasty stuff. It was an oxidizer, and a lot of ocean carriers just wouldn't allow it on their ships. And I had made such great relationships that I had actually gotten a Chinese-owned vessel operating company to move the freight.
Okay.
So coming back, I couldn't wait to show everybody what I was able to accomplish in such a short amount of time. So what I did was, y'all gonna laugh. What I did was I did my presentation and I changed my first slide and it said, "Allow me to reintroduce myself."
Okay.
From
Yeah, of course.
Right. So I was like,
PSA.
Right. I was like, if Jay can reintroduce himself, we all can be reintroduced. I can ever change.
Right.
And I can ever be myself.
Right.
So I did a whole allow me to reintroduce myself, and the next slide said, "My name is Shaquana." And then within a few months of that is when the Chinese crew gave me the Shaq name.
Wow. That's dope. I love how your dad understood the power of names. I mean, if you allow somebody to strip you of your name, essentially they're stripping you of everything that name encompasses and who you are.